There's a saying that goes, too much of anything is bad. But when it comes to greed, it's not just bad, it's catastrophic. In a small village in southeastern Nigeria, a village where the people were known for their strong sense of community, where neighbors helped one another, and where a family's bond was everything. This was the world Ifeoma was born into. Her father, Chijioke, was a hardworking farmer. His hands were rough from toiling in the fields, and his heart was as big as the land he walked on. Ifeoma's mother, Ngozi, was the matriarch of the family, running a small food stall at the market. They didn't have much, but what they did have was a home filled with love, laughter, and a deep respect for one another. From an early age, Ifeoma's parents taught her the value of family. They would often sit together at the end of the day, talking about their dreams for the future. They dreamed of seeing their children grow up to be successful, to get an education, and to live a life that was better than theirs. The idea of wealth was never the focus. But Ifeoma, even as a child, was always drawn to the idea of having more money, more power, more recognition. As she grew older, Ifeoma began to distance herself from the family values she had been raised with. She started comparing her life to the other children in the village. Some of them had shoes with fancy brands, clothes that sparkled in the sunlight, and access to things she could only dream of. Ifeoma's family couldn't afford those luxuries. She didn't have the latest fashions or gadgets. But her peers did, and that's where Ifeoma's desire for more began to grow. One day, Ifeoma stumbled upon an old family heirloom. It was a necklace, a beautiful piece of jewelry passed down from generation to generation. The necklace had been in the family for as long as anyone could remember, and it was considered priceless. Not because of its monetary value, but because of its sentimental importance. It was a symbol of the family's history, their struggles, and their triumphs. For her parents, the necklace was sacred, but for Ifeoma, it wasn't sacred, it was valuable. It represented something she could use to escape the life of simplicity she was living. And so, with a mixture of curiosity and desperation, Ifeoma took the necklace one day when no one was around. She didn't ask for permission. She didn't consider the consequences. She didn't even think twice. She walked to the city, found a buyer, and sold the necklace for a significant amount of money. The buyer didn't question the origin of the necklace. To him, it was just another item to resell. With the money she received, Ifeoma felt like she had won the lottery. For the first time, she felt like she had control over her life. She bought clothes, jewelry, and all the things she had always dreamed of. Her life had changed overnight, but deep down, Ifeoma knew what she had done. She knew she had betrayed her family. But rather than confront the truth, she buried the guilt. She justified her actions by telling herself that her family would never know. After all, she was doing this for their future. She would use the money to support them, to make their lives better. But that was a lie she told herself to feel better about her greed. Ifeoma's life quickly spiraled out of control. She bought more expensive clothes, went to fancy restaurants, and made sure her social media was filled with images of her new, lavish life. She wanted everyone to know that she had made it. She wanted to show the world that she was better than the people she grew up with, but as her material wealth increased, her emotional wealth diminished. Her relationship with her parents began to fade. They noticed her sudden change in attitude. She became more distant, more secretive. She stopped spending time with her family. When they asked where all the money was coming from, Ifeoma would say, "It's nothing, just some extra work." But deep down, her parents knew something wasn't right. The first signs of trouble came when her younger sister, Adis, asked Ifeoma to help pay for her school fees. Ifeoma, who had been so eager to spend her money on herself, suddenly became defensive. "Why don't you ask Mom and Dad for the money?" she snapped. Adis was taken aback by her sister's sudden hostility. It was clear that Ifeoma's priorities had changed, and the family began to notice, but Ifeoma kept lying. She continued to pretend everything was fine, even though her actions were hurting the people closest to her. The more she lied, the more she became isolated from her family. The person they had once known was no longer the same. Ifeoma's addiction to greed didn't stop with the necklace. She began to steal from her parents, small amounts of money here and there. When her mother would ask her to help with the household expenses, Ifeoma would offer a token amount, making sure it seemed like she was still contributing. But the truth was, she was taking more than she was giving. She justified her actions by telling herself that she deserved more. She worked hard, didn't she? Why shouldn't she have the best? But the more she took, the more she wanted. And with each passing day, the bond between Ifeoma and her family continued to weaken. Her parents, once proud of her, began to worry. They had raised their children with values of honesty, trust, and integrity. But now, all they saw was a young woman consumed by greed, a woman who was willing to betray her own family for the sake of wealth. One fateful night, Ifeoma's father, Chijioke, fell seriously ill. His health had been declining for some time, but he refused to go to the hospital. There was no money for medical treatment, and he believed that the traditional remedies of the village would be enough. But as the night wore on, his condition worsened. His breathing became labored, and his fever spiked. Ngozi, Ifeoma's mother, was beside herself with worry. "Go and get Ifeoma," Ngozi pleaded with her son. "She's the one who can help us." But Ifeoma was too caught up in her new life to care. She had money now. She had everything she ever wanted. Why should she help her father? He had never given her the life she thought she deserved. She stayed in her room, refusing to face the truth of what was happening. That night, her father passed away. And the moment he took his last breath, Ifeoma felt something inside her snap. The guilt, the shame, the realization that she had lost him forever, all hit her at once. But it was too late. The greed that had consumed her for so long had destroyed the one person who had always been there for her. It had torn apart the very fabric of her family. When Ifeoma went to her mother the next morning to express her sorrow, it was too late. Ngozi had already known. She had known for a long time. The lies, the distance, the changes in Ifeoma's behavior, they had all pointed to the same conclusion. Ifeoma's greed had stolen her father's final moments and ruined any chance of reconciliation. Ifeoma's story is a heartbreaking reminder of the dangers of greed. What started as a small desire for more, for a better life, for luxury, eventually consumed her entire family. Greed is a destructive force, one that doesn't just take away material possessions, but also relationships, trust, and the love of the people closest to us. Ifeoma had everything she ever dreamed of: wealth, status, and power. But in the end, it wasn't enough. The money she had longed for became meaningless when she realized that she had lost the people who truly mattered. The family that had raised her, that had supported her, was gone. And no amount of money could ever replace them. This is a lesson for us all, that when we let greed take control, we risk losing everything that truly matters. It's not the possessions we accumulate, but the relationships we build that give our lives true value. Don't let greed steal your happiness, your family, or your peace of mind. Don't let greed control your life. Appreciate what truly matters.